Maloni, I'm Alice Lolohea. Welcome to the Pacific.
Talafalava Afeafe mai, I'm Johnson Ida. Here's what's coming up on the show.
We explore Fiji's historic Naihehe caves.
Tuvalu's Prime Minister reflects on 1 year of the Falepili Union.
And a Tongan athlete gears up to take on the world's best at the Hyrox Championships.
Obesity is a disease affecting Pacific communities at alarming rates, and for many, weight loss surgery can feel like a last chance to change their lives.
Now, a combination of superannuation withdrawals, cheap flights, social media promotion and the promise of fast results is drawing more Pacific people in Australia to Türkiye's booming surgery industry.
But as the number of patients grows, so too do concerns about what happens when things go wrong far from home.
A warning, the story contains medical images from inside operating theatres.
Holy heck, I just finished surgery. It's 12:30.
I am officially 96 kgs down.
I'm currently 1 day post-op.
Weight loss surgery has become an increasingly common option for people grappling with obesity. A sleeve gastrectomy, where a large portion of the stomach is removed, is the most popular procedure. But surgery can be expensive, and more people are applying for and getting approved for compassionate release of their superannuation to fund their entire surgery or the shortfall not covered by private medical insurance.
People think it's the easy way out. It's not the easy way out.
I love carrot cake.
Philly and Natasha both had weight loss surgery in 2025. With the procedure costing as much as $30,000, they opted to use superannuation to help cover the shortfall not covered by private health insurance.
So with Philly's one, he got something called a gastric sleeve plus a SADI, which is the standard gastric sleeve surgery. So his GAT fee was about 10,000.
That's the fee that comes under the superannuation.
Yeah, my GAT fee was 7,000 because I just got the gastric sleeve. So that came out of my super.
For them, the procedure has been life-changing.
Intimacy has gotten so much better for us. So for me, being physical and being able, it has been really great for me.
I think also we never spoke about children at the weight we were. With the surgery, it's give us opportunity to talk about it.
My admission date's been set for the 11th.
At his heaviest, Philly weighed somewhere around 300 kgs.
When I saw the doctor and he goes, you literally have 2 years left before you die.
Philly managed to get his weight to under 200 kgs and finally opted to get the gastric sleeve in Australia. He's been documenting the journey on TikTok.
I can fit 3XL business t-shirts. I never thought it would reach this many people. I just wanted to put it out there for me and to be able to look back 2, 3, 4 years and be like, oh, look where I came from.
So, how does the surgery work? Technically, it's called a sleeve gastrectomy, where 70 to 80% of the stomach is permanently removed. Using small keyhole incisions in the abdomen, the surgeon carefully removes the larger curved portion of the stomach. The remaining stomach is reshaped into a narrow tube called a sleeve, which holds much less food. The surgery also reduces the production of the hunger hormone ghrelin, which helps suppress appetite. Over time, the patient loses a significant amount of weight. We've come to Epworth Hospital in Richmond. Bariatric surgeon Dr. Dan Foley is performing a sleeve gastrectomy today, and he's let us in to film the surgery.
So this is the keyhole camera itself. This is how we see. That's where it demonstrates the picture for us. And then these are the little ports that go through the skin. So camera goes inside the ports, just like so.
So the surgery is well underway right now, and it's incredible that we get to witness one. The number of gastric sleeve surgeries in Australia is actually on the decline. Some experts say the introduction of GLP-1s like Ozempic, Wegovy and Mounjaro are giving people more options. But it's also a sign people could be opting for cheaper surgeries overseas.
And additionally, I think it's a cost of living crisis at the moment, and people are really struggling to make ends meet. And that drives people to look for more cost-effective alternatives. And some of those alternatives are offshore, including places such as Turkey.
Costs for the gastric sleeve surgery in Istanbul, Turkey.
And I've chosen Riyadh Hospital in Istanbul, Turkey.
Türkiye is one of the top 5 global destinations for cosmetic surgery, with over 1.5 million medical tourists visiting annually. People flock here for surgeries which cost 50 to 70% cheaper than Australia, and low wait times. This is what drew Margaret to choose surgery in Türkiye.
It's been more than 24 hours since I had my surgery. It was probably when I had a car accident. My son was in the car, and that was like the real eye-opener, that it was like, I can't wait on a waiting list and then get told that it's going to be a year.
In Türkiye, a gastric sleeve often costs between $6,000 and $12,000. This includes airport transfers, hospital stay, surgery, and a few days recovery, often in a luxury hotel. Margaret paid $11,500 for her surgery.
The service, everything from the airport pickup is insane. Like, we got picked up in like these cool as fancy transits that took us to our hotel. Like, there wasn't anything that I could fault about it. Just everything was just so nice.
What about the hospital and medical facilities?
Yeah, compared to our public hospitals, it was still flash, and the rooms were it just was more spacious.
Since 2018, compassionate release of superannuation funds approved by the ATO has risen every year from 200 million to 255 million in the 2024 to 2025 financial year.
Unfortunately, the surgery is expensive and private health insurance doesn't cover all the costs. And then there's some people that don't take out private insurance and seek to pay for it up front themselves. I think it is important that people do have the option to take out their super, to have this life-changing surgery that allows people to live long enough to probably enjoy their super.
Between 2024 and 2025, more than 13,000 people received compassionate release of superannuation funds for weight loss surgery. But experts say sometimes people take off overseas for surgery.
But what can happen is once the money's released, the people can cancel their surgery and they don't have to put it back into their super. They can then choose to use their super overseas. So I think there is a little loophole that maybe the ATU might need to look into.
Doctors are also warning they're seeing people return from Türkiye with post-operative complications, including leaks, infections, and twisted stomachs.
We are seeing it, unfortunately, and I work at a big public hospital in Melbourne. We've certainly had people that have landed on our doorstep very unwell, having been put on a plane back from Turkey and from other overseas countries from that matter, you know, really almost too unwell to travel, and we've had to care for them, and of course we do.
Dr. Dan Foley has some idea on how he believes overseas hospitals and surgeons could be cutting corners.
These sort of instruments are where a huge amount of the cost comes from. So this particular handle, this black bit that is reusable, I believe it lasts for 50 patients or 50 operations, and it costs tens and tens of thousands of dollars. In order for them to do surgery significantly cheaper overseas, they somehow have access to much cheaper or lower quality instruments and equipment. So I would presume that in other countries where they're doing the surgery significantly cheaper, that everybody is on a significantly lower wage, or they're utilising people who don't have quite the same level of qualification and experience.
So at any point, did you consider Turkey or overseas for surgery?
I'm going to be very honest, absolutely not. It never crossed our mind, we never talked about it. We saw all the other people, we saw social media, but it never crossed our mind.
The ABC asked the ATO whether people were using their compassionate superannuation releases for surgery overseas. Here's what they said.
There is no requirement in the law for an individual to confirm to the ATO that they used their compassionate release superannuation to pay for the approved expenses. If people are found to be in breach, they would face consequences, including fines.
Do your research. If you're considering overseas or if you're considering Australia, do your research. There is great aftercare plans here that you might not necessarily get overseas.
Do it in a way that's really going to support you to get the best outcome you can. And that usually involves working with a surgeon who recognises that you need a team around you and that you need ongoing care and you need to be supported throughout your life to make sure that you get that best result you can.
In Tuvalu, demand for the landmark Falepili visa has been overwhelming as it faces the existential threat of climate change.
In its first year, more than 8,000 Tuvaluans applied for 280 places to move to Australia.
And next week, we'll bring you a special episode about the people selected and why they are choosing to leave.
But now the second year of the ballot has opened, and I sat down with Tuvalu's Prime Minister, Falepili, to discuss migration, climate pressures, and the future of his country. But first off, Talofa, thank you very much, Prime Minister, for coming in to have a chat to the Pacific. So I guess first off, we've had the first year of the Falepili Mobility Pathway, and with the second ballot opening now, hundreds of Tuvaluans were selected for a chance to live, work and study here in Australia. If you can reflect on the last year, what would you say? How has that gone?
I think it's going well. There was a lot of excitement. As reflected by the large number of applicants. And as you know, the migration pathway is not only limited to people residing in Tuvalu, so there's a large number of applicants that were sourced from outside Tuvalu. But I think the point that I've also emphasized is that this is not a one-way migration pathway. You can enter Australia to activate your visa, but the visa remains with you for the rest of your life. And it doesn't oblige you to live in Australia for the rest of your life. You can, and the whole objective of the migration pathway is not just to move to Australia. You can go for education, acquire specialized skills, and hopefully come back to Tuvalu and contribute to the development of the country.
What is the government doing to make sure that the impact isn't so, I guess, brutal when it comes to a brain drain in Tuvalu?
The brain drain is not a new matter. I mean, people have been migrating through the various labour mobility scheme, the PALM, the RSE in New Zealand. So we've already experienced migration, and the Falepili. The difference between the Falepili and this other labour mobility, because it's organized, it's a coordinated, properly organized scheme that gives the opportunity for people to come and live in Australia, come and train, access other services that are not available back home.
I guess one of the big discussion points has been Article 4, and I want to get the phrase right, where the Falepili Union says that Tuvalu must mutually agree with Australia on any security or defence-related agreement with another state or entity. Now, critics say that essentially this gives Australia an effective veto over Tuvalu's foreign policy. Has Tuvalu given up sovereignty to Australia?
Absolutely not. If you read that provision on its own, then it gives you that impression. But if you read the treaty in its entireties, there are a lot of guarantees that safeguard our sovereignty. Since independence, there is no other country that commits legally to come to the aid of Tuvalu under free circumstances. For Australia to deliver on those security guarantees, it needs to know the security environment in Tuvalu. There are provisions in the treaty where we can invoke to suspend the treaty, even cancelling the treaty. If Tuvalu feels that Australia is not behaving to the spirit and the objectives of the treaty. So we are not locked in forever under this treaty.
Well, Australia is offering Tuvaluans a climate migration pathway, but Australia is also one of the biggest major, I guess, fossil fuel exporters. And do you believe Australia is doing enough to stop the climate crisis, and which is, I guess, contributing to some Tuvaluans moving to Australia?
Well, I think Australia needs to do much more. But in the spirit of the treaty, they have committed to help Tuvalu address our own adaptation measures. So to be true to the spirit of the treaty, Australia has a moral obligations. And they've given us explicit undertaking that they will be part of efforts to transitions to renewable energy.
If Australia wants Tuvalu to be its closest partner, really wants Tuvalu to be its closest partner, what does it need to do next? I guess not in terms of words, but more so in action.
Well, sea level rise is our greatest challenge. Apart from all other manifestations of climate change, for us, sea level rise is. So we have embarked on a coastal adaptation program, and Australia has been at the forefront of our efforts to support the TCAP. And in October this year, there will be a pre-COP event taking place in Tuvalu as part of the pre-COP meeting, which will be hosted in Fiji. But a leaders segment of that pre-COP arrangement will take place in Tuvalu. You know, you can advocate as much as you can, describing your situation, but having leaders setting foot on Funafuti and seeing it for themselves as a stronger, meaningful impact on them than just listening to me and my ministers describing our situations at meetings and other events.
Well, I would say spend the night. Prime Minister, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate you stopping by.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Naihehe translates to a place to get lost, but every year visitors from around the world travel to the Naihehe caves to find and experience a piece of Fijian history.
Located in the Navosa province of Fiji, the Naihehe caves are a historically significant site used in the past by indigenous communities for worship, rituals and refuge during crises.
Now, as our Fiji reporter Lede Movono explains, the caves may hold an answer to protecting surrounding communities vulnerable to climate change.
Bula, or as they say in these parts of Fiji, Dhola. We are on the Singatoka River. We're very excited to have this experience of checking out a part of Fiji that not very many people know about, and even less people know about the Naihehe Caves, where the ancients of this province of Fiji, Nandronga, in ancient times during troubles would escape from tribal warfare or also from natural disasters. Across the Singatoka River, onto a short truck ride, then a hike into the mountains. That's what coffee beans actually look like. And we're on our way to the Naihehe Caves, which translates to a place to get lost. Once you get in, the magnitude of the place is super impressive. We've managed to find our way around these magnificent caves thanks to our local guide, Mbete Filimoni Evisisi, a leader from the province of Navosa. The Naihehe Caves are an ancient and historically significant site to the people of Navosa. Filimoni Evisisi comes from a line of Mbete, spiritual heralds who serve as conduits to the spirit world. Not only were the Naihehe Caves a place of worship, but also a place of refuge from war and natural disasters. In these times of natural disasters where the impact of the elements remain high on the agenda and the consciousness of communities worldwide, people are looking back to the past for lessons that can help them plan for the future.
What were once regarded as traditional stories, myths and legends, were probably actually nothing of the sort. They were knowledge about how to anticipate and cope with various environmental stresses that were really important to hand down from one generation to the next to ensure the survival of your bloodline, basically.
Afeafe says stories and knowledge of how the caves were used have been verbally passed down through generations. But Patrick Nunn, a professor of geography at the University of the Sunshine Coast, believes Indigenous knowledge isn't trusted enough.
There's often an assumption that oral societies are somehow less able to cope with environmental risks like volcanic eruptions and earthquakes and tropical cyclones and things like that. A lot of this traditional knowledge is disappearing. I was talking to someone in Fiji and he was saying, the problem today is that I got these stories from my grandparents, but today the younger generation is not interested. So I think a lot of this traditional knowledge is endangered.
Kim tu kau ni bete ni solving dona bano solve kim dona bano ko mundo maro na kena nakai chukina kena talano ango maro ta kan Rotuman tondo mai reda na bekai da keleta kina na kau Türkiye na kai tu weekenda tu nanda tu na kami balet kenda ya kitu maro ta kan ni bautu begitu endo na ngara ni watu ngona kena italno mai bernangasi ya do menangongo.
It's called the fitness competition for everybody, experienced or a novice, young and old. Hyrox is the fitness competition that a lot of people are signing up for, including our very own Johnson Raela.
Yes, but for this one time, it's not about me. This time we caught up with Afeafe Lokotui, the first Polynesian athlete to qualify for the Hyrox World Championships. And if you watch closely, the guns are gunning.
So Hyrox is essentially an endurance race. It's broken up with a 1K run with a functional station, and you repeat that 8 times. Each station, you have your 1 kilometre ski erg, you have a 50-metre push and pull, so those are 2 separate stations. You have 80 metres of burpee broad jumps, you have a 1 kilometre row, 200 metres of farmers carries, 100 metres of sandbag lunges, and then you finish with 100 wall balls. My name's Afeafe Lokotui. I'm from Melbourne originally, but my dad is from Mongaone in Tonga. I come from a family of 9, so quite a lot of kids. Everything was shared in the household. A lot of sports growing up. When I was 18, I signed a contract over in England, so I got the chance to play rugby out there. And then I moved back 2 years ago, so I played 8 years out in the UK. And then about 2 years ago, I decided to just get back into fitness and look after myself, really. I saw Hyrox as a sport in England when I finished rugby. One of the gyms I trained at, they had a Hyrox program there. And I just thought it was quite cool. And I wasn't the greatest at the start, so I was terrible. About a year ago now, I decided to start to take it serious. I noticed my improvement and I was getting better sort of every week. Oh, good. Guess who got the green light, baby? So I'm 8 weeks out from Hyrox Worlds. One of my goals was to qualify for the World Championships in Hyrox and was to become like the first Pacific Islander to represent our nation. And I'm looking forward to going out in Sweden in June. I'd say a lot of the time being Pacific Islander, we are quite strong and naturally gifted athletes, more in the power aspect. So coming into Hyrox, it definitely played a part within pushing a sled, Our people probably pushing the islands and stuff, pushing coconut trees and everything. I think when I was playing rugby, the focus was to make that international stage. And I didn't quite get there in rugby. It's quite privileged to have the opportunity to represent our nation in another sport, really, and be the first to do it, so it is cool.
Earlier this week, it was Rotuma Day.
The Rotuman community of Queensland welcomed Nisha Daly's Michael Chow into their taumaka over the weekend.
Now, students were taught about the rich Indigenous culture of the Rotumans, whose oral history dates back hundreds of years.
Today, Rotuma Island exists as a dependency of Fiji, but thousands of Rotumans live across Fiji and the Pacific.
Of dancing, you get to meet a lot of people, make new friends and learn the culture of Rotuma.
This Rotuma community is my family, it's my home. Quite a lot of people here, they're mostly my aunties and uncles, I grew up with them. They're very funny people and welcoming, of course.
As you see in the dancing, for the men it's very you flow a lot compared to the women, where the women are very still, and it's good to get to know my culture and where I'm from my dad's side of the family. Talk to everyone and learn new people also from Rotuma.
We've got what they call maket, which literally means a song that you beat a bell, the bell song. We used to chant all of Polynesia. We didn't really sing notes, so we chanted. The next progression from the chants is actually to try and sing. So when Christianity came, they said, this is the song, this is a bell, and off you go. The bell sets the tone, and everybody follows it, singing from the heart. So when they say, fill your heart with song, I fill my heart with my traditional song.
When I first arrived here in Brisbane, I was very homesick. I was looking for the culture. That's what I really missed, my identity. So I met up with these aunties, and then we started talking. One of them, she said to me, oh, are you Rotuman? And I said, Auntie, I am. I am a Rotuman. And that's how it started. That's how we came to know the Rotuman community here. Rotuma Day is a celebration of our identity. And as a Rotuman, I'm thinking of those people, before us. We celebrate Rotuma Day and remember them. Continue the culture and be proud of where you came from.
Oh, that was so lovely. Massive shout out to our Nisha Daily crew for bringing us that story.
Well, that's our show for another week. Remember, you can catch up on news from across the region on our ABC Pacific platforms.
You can also rewatch any of our stories on ABC iView, ABC News and ABC In-Depth YouTube channels. Ka kite.
Mo mea.